How is everyone doing today? Welcome to this special live episode from Human Power Solutions. I'm Sandra Coker, CEO of Human Power Solutions and the author of the international best-selling book, People Profit: How to Improve Your Bottom Line by Investing in Those Above It. And I also host a podcast called the People Profit Podcast, where we explore with various guests how investing in people creates better teams and more profitable organizations. And I want to talk with you a little bit about an episode that aired on June 10th. So it's live, it's up on everywhere you stream your podcast, and it's with David Friedman. And he is a founder of CultureWise. He's a former CEO and a best selling author of Culture by Design and Fundamentally Different. David built an award winning culture at RSI using 30 practical behaviors known as the RSI fundamentals. He later transformed that approach into CultureWise operating system, which has helped organizations make culture something employees consistently practice, not something that's just up there on the wall. So here's a question for everyone watching. Does your organization intentionally build culture, or does it simply hope that the right culture is developing? I'd love to hear some of your answers. And, for David's episode, we focus on 5 conversation starters that kind of like highlighted the strongest points from our podcast. And I want to, talk with you guys a little bit about that today. So, he talks about like many organizations have mission statements and company values. They're on the wall, they're displayed everywhere. But employees, it's kind of noise for them. They don't see the values that are reflected on a daily basis and in daily decisions. And so oftentimes we find that traditional values often fail to shape that culture of what leaders should focus on. What should they be focusing on instead? So that's something that we talked about in our podcast. And when you think about it, you guys, does your organization actively practice its values, or are they mostly words on the wall? So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. And the second thing we talked about is that culture should be operational, not inspirational. And I really love that because, David talks a lot about, we do a lot of inspiration and we want to motivate people and get people rolling, but we've actually got to make it so that there's a system to what we're trying to do. So, it's providing people clarity on not only what the values are, but what are the behaviors that are behind those values. That's really huge. And we talked a little bit about, how mistakes are handled, how leaders, handle things under pressure, and what questions leaders can ask employees when things are under pressure. And that's where the true culture comes out for most of the employees that are out there and the organization. So, we can all get along and we can all do our behaviors when everything is going well. But when everything's not going so well, that's where the true culture really comes out, and that's where the behaviors are really, really nailed down. So that's how we know. And then we talked a lot in this episode about hybrid work, multiple generations, this constant workplace change, this hyper velocity change we've been talking about. We've talked about, that employees need that clarity and consistency. And so he talks a lot about, how these behaviors based on the culture help leaders build trust and accountability, where everybody's kind of working, on the same thing, even if they're not in the same place. And I took a lot away from that for my company. And so I think it's be really interesting for you guys to listen to that. So when you think about your organizations, you guys, what's one behavior you wish every person in your organization practiced consistently? Think about that and share that with your leadership team and share that with your employees. And the other thing we did is David really gave us some practical next steps. So he, in our episode, he was talking to leaders who, have come to the realization that their culture has been developed by accident. And so he's given us some really good practical tips and ways that they can define and reinforce the behavior they want to see. So this episode is filled with so many great things about how to build a strong workplace culture and things like that. So I just really am hoping that you guys can take a look at the episode. Like I said, it was June 10th of this year, and we would love to have your comments and your thoughts on what culture and behaviors mean for your organization. I hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks for joining.